This is Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Rob from The Rob and Slim Show. Check us out every Wednesday on IPMNation.com/live2. You are listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is John Corrigan, host of Corrigan's Corner and the editor of The Wrestling Estate, welcoming you to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Frank Cugino, host of Frank About Sports on YouTube, and you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Percy Crawford from Zinger News. You listen to Reckless Airways Radio. Be sure to check out Straight to the Point with yours truly every time we drop one.
Hello out there. This is Tony Myers, a.k.a. Chainsaw Tony, FMW Leatherface. And you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Don't touch that dial.
Reckless Airways Radio. This is Frankie McDonald. I'm doing great. You're listening to the Reckless Airways Radio.
6 o'clock to BAM! BC. Coming up on 6:05. I'm just 25 minutes after 6 o'clock. WNBC.
This is speech impediment man, and when I'm not on the stage, I always listen to my favorite podcast, Reckless Radio, and you should too.
This is Fred Davenport, and you're listening to Reckless Airways Radio.
Hey, this is Reckless Airways model Valerie, and you're listening to Reckless Airways Radio. Uncensored, unfiltered, unforgiving radio. And be sure to check me out on the site at recklessairwaves.com.
Reckless Airwaves Radio. Uncensored, unforgiving radio that's always willing to push the limits. We don't care about political correctness. We don't need anyone's approval. And we do what we want. We are ready to wreck the airwaves. This is Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hey, what's up, Tony? What's going on?
How you been?
Not too bad. You?
All right. I guess you're supposed to be the one asking questions. Yeah. As always, man. I'm back on the couch again with you, and so it's got to be better for me to talk to you.
Well, since you asked, I've been dying from this heat. I can't stand the. Not that I can't stand the summer. I can't stand the humidity, and especially like a little bit of a heat wave here. So this is like 6 days in a row or whatever. I'm off the next 2 days after today, so I'm all right now. But yeah, the heat got me the last couple of days though.
I'm good with the heat. I'm just not good with humidity. Like humidity makes me sweat everything out. And yeah, like for mobile catering, everyone's like, "Well, run the air conditioning in your car." No, because the second you get out. The second that you're in, the second you're in, it makes it almost worse.
Right.
You know, and then, then I got sick for like a few days, for almost like a full week, where I had a cold. I guess it's because I slept directly under my fan.
Yeah.
I always have to have circulation while I'm sleeping. I don't understand how people can do it.
Oh, without air conditioning, you mean? Or without anything? I know. You sweat to death
in
the bed.
I mean, like, just any kind of air, like whether it be the heat in the winter, which I very rarely do, or it just be the air condition or at least the fan during the summer. It's like, I don't understand how you could breathe that same air like you're confined in a room.
Right.
And I'm the same strange way about my car. Like, I don't want to breathe in like all the frigid cold air, because it's like all kinds of chemicals and crap. It's so misleading.
Yeah.
And then you get out in the natural air, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm just like that for some odd reason.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta throw the air conditioner on once in a while. Sometimes the other day I was just like restless the last couple hours before I had to get up for work, and I was just sweating to death. I had to get up and put the air conditioner on for a little while just to pump in some clean new air. It was just dry and dead and warm in my apartment.
I never understood this. Of the people that I know that have obviously been to Florida, but even more like Kenya, all they do is complain about the heat in the summertime, and I'm like, at least that's kind of coastal. You're near a beach, or you're near in Jersey here. I'm like maybe 45 minutes from the coast. I'm like 45 minutes west, and that makes up for something, that doesn't make up for anything, because it's just dead humidity. It's the same way it was in Memphis. Down on the Delta, there's no major bodies of water anywhere around you. Even the Mississippi River is just like this mucky. It's not exactly coastal. You know, It's not the East Coast, not the West. Yeah, so I mean, you just sat there. You're just sitting there in that dead, sticky, disgusting.
Yeah.
If anybody ever wants to test himself with endurance, go to Memphis for a summer and just feel that heat.
Yeah. I couldn't, I don't know, any kind of warm weather state, I couldn't live there constantly. It's just too warm. Even here on Long Island, I mean, people think just because it's Long Island that we're surrounded by water. I mean, unless you're on the end of the island or the bottom of the island or I guess the top of the island, you're not near water for the most part. You're in the middle of land like everybody else. It's no different than if you lived in the city or something like that. So it gets hot as hell. You don't get that beach breeze or anything like that unless you're all the way down near the water.
Yeah, as a kid, we went to Long Island. There's a couple kids down the street who's had some cousins living out there.
Yeah.
So I didn't remember much of it. And then, like, when I moved from Memphis after 17 years of Memphis back up to, actually, I had moved in with a fiance at the time and spent 3 years in, like, the 160th and Broadway, Washington Heights.
Yeah.
And I made that A train loop all the way around, all the way out to Long Island. And I just went out there for the day, just kind of hung around the water, just to say, hey, man, I went back to Long Island. Like, how cool is that? Long Island's like the last body of water. It's like the last place that you leave before it starts getting to, like, upstate New York kind of.
Right, yeah. And that's the thing.
I guess
New York is freaking hours away from Long Island. So anybody, you meet them and they're like, yeah, we live close, and then they say upstate. It's like, that's not really close. That's way past New York City, and you gotta go way up there to get there. Hours.
Once you're up out of the 5 boroughs, you might as well not even say you're in the city anymore.
Right.
You might as well say you're nowhere near. Yeah, because almost right away it starts becoming really country with like 2 gas stations in a town, and
Yeah. Yeah.
When I went,
Barren,
when I went, I did that music video with the guy Beatty. He was like the understudy from the Wu-Tang and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That place was only like 3.5. No, that place was maybe 3.5, 4 hours from the inner city, and it was like boondocks. I mean, nothing was out there. It was like if you didn't work in one of those oil rigs up there or whatever, like you look there and you go, this must be like old retired people, or you could write a book sitting up there, but there is nothing going on like all the way out there. To me, it's as country as can be. It's
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I knew a guy that lived up there, and he's actually moving back there in September, and he was telling me like his town it's really small, and it's just like 1,000 people or something like that. I can't remember something with a C. I can't really remember where it was, but it was upstate though, and that's how it is up there.
When I first went to Memphis, I had like the first wife and all that already. you know, I wasn't actually married, but, you know, we were dating and all that, and, you know, just getting around the wrestling, and just even as a job guy, goofing around and getting the shrapnel that was rejected from the top-level guys. We met these girls, and we went out to their place one night out in Arkansas, and they're like, "You sure you never heard of our town? It's got two convenient. It's got 2 gas stations, and they both got convenience stores." And the one girl starts going, the chili dogs are so good there, and we're like, two gas stations in a town? Like, what?
Right.
The tiny town I grew up in East Hanover, is only 8 square miles. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records for like the dead outnumbering the living, because in tiny square feet, tiny square miles, there's like maybe 10 cemeteries.
Right.
It used to be the headquarters of Nabisco, you know, that made all the Fig Newtons and all that crap. Yeah. I sure am.
I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so it's pretty hot as hell. Looks like we might have to wear the masks again, which I'm not looking forward to if that happens. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, and it looks like they may go back to that in the wintertime, but whatever. Worry about that when it happens.
Yeah, it's almost a miracle that we all made it through an entire summer with those strict guidelines and everything last year. It was just, it just felt unbearable, but, you know, it's something that you work through. It's like, for me, I keep telling myself, like, with the time existence, it could literally be any week now that I get my plane tickets and I'm gone and I'm out of here. And, you know, I've been asked by so many people the same thing. And I always tell them, I send them the link and I go, hey, you know, I just covered this on the podcast. Like, if you're really interested, because to go into it with just texting out any info or anything like that, no. Yeah. It's still not the same. It's beyond not one and the same. And FMWE continues to make, you know, and here was another funny thing too. 1 month before they went public with the formation of and the launching of, you remember a month before that I was on here with you talking about it.
I remember that, yeah.
And even then, Onita's like, okay, be careful to hit this and avoid that. Now, in retrospect, you know, I can say it. There were certain things I could address and certain things he told me to stay away from.
Right.
And I mean, that's just what you do, especially when the guy's holding your work visa, you know.
Yeah.
I heard they sent me the link to where Cornette did the rant on him and the brand new FMWE, and Jesus, man,
did he really?
So
I
off.
didn't see that. I usually keep an eye on Cornette's videos. When did that come out? Last month or something?
I think it was launched because, I guess, what do they have like 2 separate shows there or whatever?
I think so. Yeah, they have the Cornette drive-through, and then they have something else. I mean, I'll listen to like the clips. I don't listen to the 2 hours of him and the other guy, but you know, they have like these 5-minute clips just for amusement. I listen to it here and there if it's something that interests me. But I never saw him talking about that, to be honest.
Yeah, or I think that, like, you know, people just want to get me riled up so that I have something to say that's, you know, but it's all been said between you and I, what I think, and, you know, my opinions. The only thing I wish to God that he would do is actually, like, a bit more research if you're going to go out on public record and say this is what happened and you know, where the origins of Onita and the idea that death matches came from, and this is what they did in an angle and stuff. I mean, as much a traditionalist as he was, guys like him and Pogo, they should give the world a credit to, because there was nowhere, you know, Pogo more actually, because he didn't have a partner hindering him. You know, as far as being on top in so many different territories with so many different styles, you know, Pogo was on top after getting the belt from Dusty Rhodes. And then, you know, he goes from that to, you know, I mean, God, look at some of the names that they brought in that he wrestled in. The Bunk's territory, you know, everywhere he went. Yeah. He was on top in Memphis for another month. You know, Goulas, he was one of the top guys. I mean, he brings up none of that stuff. But, you know, I mean, never going to discredit the stuff that he does know, you know, on the onset, you know, especially in a throwback way, and who was who, where, and when, and what territory, and different names, and some of the backgrounds. But and guys like that, he just misses the boat and just, and looking at the American scene, with death matches and what they are, I get a bit distraught seeing some of the dumb stuff that guys do and in front of just how many people and that kind of thing. But, I'm not one of those guys that are going to dump on, years ago, I can remember Wayne Kanamura, upset that there was like, oh, that's not the original Pandita. Oh, that's not the original Leatherface. And it's just like, dude, we know we're not in front of like sold out baseball stadiums. Like, for the guys out there that are all still your old friends, and he's always attending indie shows where they try to give him some credit and let him sign some stuff, make some money, It's like you would think for the generation that's still going, the guys that are still going, that, if you're one of the guys that think that you paved the way, why would you destroy what you've done?
Right. Yeah. I'll never forget many years ago when I had Sick Nick Mondo on, Matthew Burns, and we were talking about his career and everything and why he retired. And more or less, if I'm trying to remember, this was like 2014, so it was a long time ago, and he was saying, it might have even been why he didn't come back. I would have to go back and listen to it a long time ago, but he was basically saying that it was because it was fine that it was just 200 people, but it just didn't seem worth the risk anymore, with his health and everything. And then I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what else he said. That was the gist of it, though. But, yeah.
I was corresponding this last week or two. I shot him a message because he knows I'm one of those guys. I'll never ask him for anything,
Sure.
And he was, and I think I've said it on this program before, he was always my voice of reason. Like, I would meet up with him in my town.
Now, who are you talking about, Matt? Are you talking about Sick Nick Mondo?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Another time we spent like 4 or 5 hours in like a TGI Fridays just talking about everyday life in Japan, and there was so much wrestling in there, and you could tell it was something he was truly passionate about. But yeah, when he saw the big picture and where it was going, he did the wisest thing he could do. And there's a guy there that anytime he wants to put out another movie like The Trade, and so he and I had been corresponding for the last, I still need to respond to his last message. But it goes so much along the lines of what we're talking about. And I was like, dude, we were so warned by our forefathers of not taking it too far.
Yeah.
There was this awesome article by Chris Jericho and X-Pac. And you remember at various times, the both of them, the internet was in love with these guys. They couldn't be any hotter. Now, if you remember around 92, 93, everybody was a Lightning Kid mark. I mean, like, everybody that got all the newsletters, anybody that was on Prodigy back then, he was the buzz
Prodigy,
of the industry.
I haven't thought of that in so long. Prodigy.
Yeah. The dial-up thing.
Blast from the past, yeah.
Those two brought up how the older guys were telling them they were doing too much. And Jericho specifically talked about a time when Nick Bockwinkel said that to him, and he's just like, fucking old man. What a dickhead thing to say. He said, what was the term he used? He just said, what an asshole thing to say, to a young guy that's busting his ass. No, those guys were trying to forewarn us that we're just going to take it too far off the grid. I showed Nick Mondo the scar in the back of my arm from like an actual chainsaw that cut the back of my arm.
Wow. Yeah.
He was like, good God, do you ever look back at some of that stuff? And I'm like, his stuff has been broadcast, everywhere. Everybody. But the thing that I told him, and he didn't really respond to it that much, because we were like, we interweave like 5 or 6 random thoughts, back to each other. So we volley things back and forth. But I was like, the thing that still makes me, when I watch The Trade, all these people are like, oh, it was awesome. And I'm like, they barely got the point of just, this guy is like, kind of like in distress. He's kind of like lamenting. He's kind of sad and kind of sighs that he still sees guys emulating the stuff that he did or trying to take it to another level. Like, this is not what he wanted.
Right.
Yeah. But for he himself, his outlook on everything is, yeah, go ahead, get your fill, pedal to the metal, just drain the tank. And then if it's not for you, okay, then it's not for you. You're gonna have something to fall back on. You're gonna have something of interest other than wrestling that you're gonna wanna. So it's okay.
Right.
But I think people miss the point of, they just saw the violence and were like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I remember that," or they thought it was so great because they were in it. It's like, but the overall point of it was, did anybody get that? Did anybody get the actual? I sat in the theater when it debuted in Tokyo, and he was like 3 seats away from me. He was like in front and like 2 seats down, to where I could have reached out my left hand and, hey. But I waited till it was till it was over. And he himself, he didn't know whether he was going to be there for the debut of it. And when I walked in, I saw these American people. I was like, oh, and they were the ones that were taking tickets and everything for the movie.
Yeah.
And they were like, I asked them, I go, did he make it here? Do you know if Matthew Burns? And they were like, oh yeah, he's in there. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I'm not going to bother him. And then afterwards he was like, photos with like Massa Horie, and like, that's when I become really humble and I go, don't even step down there. There's nothing down there for you. Like, if they haven't seen you by now, somebody will have spotted you, and people know who you are,
Yeah.
Reminds me when I went to the Stardom shows, I ran into my buddy Eiji Izaki, the guy that works in the office of Magic Box Pro. He's one of the top guys in that office. And we saw him, and he was like helped setting up the ring. So once I spotted him, I'm like, yo, buddy. I started grabbing lumber and started hauling it. And I knew to show up at Kurokan Hall, because it was at Kurokan Hall. I go, I told the 2 guys I was with. One was Jay Landry, Slam and Stu from XPW. I go, buddy, too many people are going to recognize me around Kurokan Hall and just go, oh, that's old Chainsaw Tony without the mask for some reason. So I showed up with my mask, and I had a hood over my head, and, I wasn't trying to, It was neat, though, because, of course you're going to get recognized, you're wearing the mask, but a lot of the fans told me, they were like, what'd you think about the matches? And, it was so cool to, like, interact like that. And, I wasn't, in no way was I going to be like, hey, look, everybody, it's me. No, it was just, like, humbly going and watching, because my buddy Jay wanted to watch a Stardom show. Yeah. So I thought that would be just so, I'm easily recognizable. The hair alone is a dead giveaway. So it's happened too many times. Oh, yeah. Like, I'm on the way to the matches, and before I can even pull the mask out, there's somebody on the train looking at me funny. Right. That's how I know. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. And then eventually they start smiling at you or bowing, and you're like, oh, no. Like, not here, not in public, nothing. It's so funny because the fans get into it, too. Because the fans are like, they know who you are and everything, but they're kind of like, oh, okay, treat him like a normal guy. But the minute that mask comes on, everyone's like, I miss that. I can't wait to get back to it. Another thing I had to point out, too, before I went into that rambling, that is that, I get a lot of people, hey, are you booked on this or booked on that? And FMWE Round 2, another big show that they're promoting. And I'm like, doesn't anybody just sit back, just relax, Would you think if I got my ticket by now, I would be like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not advertised, but I'm not. Right. Casual people have to stop asking. You know what I mean? My closest friends, they don't even ask. They just go. I find it funny that you arrive in Japan and Onita comes out of retirement 1 week later. I'm like, yeah, because it's called fucking kayfabe, and I wish to God there's a reason and time for using kayfabe. When your family asks you, when you're starting out wrestling, well, you making any money doing that stuff? That's a reason to kayfabe, because they don't know any better. They're going to tell your aunt, who's going to tell a friend, he's not making shit, like.
Right.
So, to me, kayfabe still exists like that. It just has to, for the sake of,
Yeah.
just relax. Wait for things to play out. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say about FMWE, but God, I'm starting to ramble.
Well, just going back to what you're talking about with the trade, that was an amazing film. I saw that a couple of years ago, and yeah, it was really, like you said, it was a lot deeper than people might think if they didn't really understand what he was trying to say in that film. It was really a struggle, between him in his mind, of wanting to do that, his wrestling career and all the the baggage that comes with it, and like you said, the guilt of other people trying to emulate him and stuff like that. It's just, and there's also because I remember we did a really good interview with him, around that time, before it came out, after it came out, a couple times, and it was like it's just a struggle in his mind, and that's what he was trying to get, and it was just the way he portrayed it in the film was really good. I mean, it was like his wrestling, self looking at him struggling on the end of the bed. I don't know if you remember that scene. It was a really good film. I definitely enjoyed it.
I sure do. And I got to the point when I was sitting in that theater, because they aired, they showed a whole bunch of independent films, and one of them was awesome. It was about this man in his basket, this Indian guy, and I gotta track it down because it is called The Basket. Like loosely translated, translates into The Basket. And I want to go online later on tonight if I could ever get through all these DVDs and stuff I just got in from Japan. If I gotta go online and track down who did that because it was brilliant claymation / animation. It was just fascinating. I always wanted to talk to him about that one too, if he could remember it. But yeah, Nick Mondo was kind of my voice of reason. See, his sister is like a dentist with like a real dentist with her own, everything. And when I brought to him about Pogo replacing the teeth that I had broken, he just he was like shocked. And he goes, "This guy must really take to you, man, because that's something." And I told him, I said, I saw the company invoice, because they had to bill it and all that. It's $35,000 worth of, cosmetic, dentistry that went on in my mouth. And it was all during the summer of 2012. And so every day, I was having to continue going for all this work. And I told him, I was like, well, I've been so loyal to that company, and he was just kind of blown away. And, he was always the voice of reason. He was always saying how you holding up? And, and I was just like, I don't know, man. I start feeling it while I'm out there. And I'm just like, how can I one up the ante? The one time, Onita went to kick me off the ring apron, and he just told me, because it was into the landmine board with all the barbed wire on it and everything. And he was telling me as he's kicking me, he was telling me word for word. He goes, he was saying it in Japanese as he's in between kicks. He's going, look, it's going to hurt bad enough. You land in that barbed wire. Don't do any backflips. Don't do any. And he's saying this as he's doing it to me. And then I let go of the rope, because that was the whole thing was, just let go when you're ready. So after a few of those kicks, I'm taking the bump into the barbed wire, and I just have to flat back so nothing hurts as bad. But two, he was explaining how you're going to be laying there in that barbed wire until they come get you out. So no matter how you land, it's going to be sticking in you. Just imagine somebody saying all that in the middle of so I would tell Nick Mondo about stuff like that, and he'd be like, yeah, man, even Onita's telling you, take a step. What are you doing? Take a step back. It's funny, though, because I was never pressured by anybody. If they told me I was the one taking the big bump into something or, had to come off the scaffold with something, I was just like, all right, I'm that can-do kind of guy. But I never went to him and be like, oh, yeah, while I'm falling down, can you put up a strand of barbed wire so I could slit my throat. Like I never, you know what I mean? I was never that guy.
Yeah. Right,
I was
right.
within reason, willing to do whatever I had to do for the company to. That's the way I've always been about everything. That's the way you should be. You should be passionate about your job, and ties into livelihood.
Yeah.
And I know me myself. I don't have that many years left, so why not? Why not just floor it at this point? I got enough time in between to heal well enough.
Yeah.
It's funny too because people will tag me and stuff on the internet and like, oh, what do you think? And it's just like, that's why I don't go public with anything that's going on. It's because, I'm guaranteed, to resume like an office job with FMWE, where I'm still doing the commentary and going to be in the office. There's all that stuff up there. It's in Fukuoka. So I'm going to be around all three of the financiers. So, no matter what, I'm going to be surrounded by it. But there are things I just ask out of professional courtesy for people not to inbox me and be like, well, what's coming up next? And what's, the company has its own Twitter. It has its own Instagram. Onita's a very accessible guy. So, all things considered, that's where you're going to get your information from.
Right.
If it leaks to one person, it's going to leak to several more, and they're going to know exactly where it came from. And I don't want to be held responsible for that.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, the last time I talked to Nick Mondo was probably about, it was during the Team Left Jab years, actually, so it was probably about a year and a half ago or something. He was doing work with AEW. He was doing videos for them, vignettes, I think. And that was the last time I talked to him. It's been a while. It's been a long time since I had him on or talked to him or anything. I don't know if he's still with AEW, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I know he was
last I heard,
when it first started, but...
Well, he is needed for them to produce some of the, vignettes and stuff like that. So he's pretty much, he'll be there until he decides, I don't want to do this no more. Or he's getting the itch, he's getting the bug too much. That's when he'll put the kibosh on it and be like, and pull back. Honestly, he didn't see a finish.
Videos for them?
I believe so. That's one of those things, like, between he and I when we talk, I always try to pull that. I always try to pull anything that he has to do with wrestling, unless he sends me a cute picture of, like, him and Luther together, like, waving. Then I'll be like, my guys, So, as for the, AEW, FMWE, it's a matter of time. But people, please, let that play out. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Everybody sees what's happening. Mick Foley tweeted out, what was it, Moxley and Onita with me as special. So even Mick Foley is trying.
I saw that, I think.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing that, yeah.
He knows how to get the word going, man. These guys are, they're new age carny in a very good way, not carny in a bad way. They know how to get people talking, and I mean, isn't that what wrestling should be? Shouldn't you know how to promote yourself and get yourself out there and, within the realm of decent taste and that kind of thing. I mean,
well, we talked about, as far as like death matches in the United States and stuff like this last time or the time before. And, COVID really did a number on some of these indie promotions and stuff like that. I mean, like you were saying, CZW is all, I don't even think they're in operation anymore, to be honest with you. And even GCW, I don't know if it's just because they lost most of their stars to AEW a couple of years ago, but I don't feel like they have as much buzz as they did at a couple of years ago. But then again, I don't think any indie promotion really has as much buzz as it had a couple of years ago. Everything has kind of been derailed. So who knows how long it's going to be before everything is back on track. But you just don't see it advertised as much, a big death match or something like that as much as you used to.
No, and it's not going to be. It'll never really. I don't ever want to say it'll never go mainstream because it'll pop up every now and then. There's enough of the roster up at AEW and Impact and, that kind of thing. Somebody's going to do what they can to grab some attention somewhere. For the deathmatch thing, it'll never die. There'll always be somebody, even in a hallway somewhere, with the camera going. That whole genre will never die. Never. I mean, it's there. It's going to be under the umbrella of professional wrestling for as long as we can ever imagine. I mean, for the companies that made it through the COVID thing, I mean, they did wise things. They did what they had to do to keep their head above water. They did what they had to do to keep themselves afloat. Pogo and his guys, Pogo's guys, WWS, because of the whole Corona thing, they had to run Magic Box Pro, which, looking at both groups, because at first it was like a really, really bad rivalry, and I was like, oh, God, no, this is not happening. One place just signed me and, has me on consistent money, guarantee. And another place has been my livelihood and everything. Once I got to latch on to Pogo's WWS, I mean, everything for me was handed to me on a silver platter at that point. Yeah, I had to go out there and earn it, but, with Pogo getting a piece of the pie, he was going to loan me to as many people under as many different gimmicks as he could. And who could blame him? He was making money. But, for it to go mainstream and, never stateside, if used in the right, freak show, hey, they still did great numbers for Moxley and Dean Ambrose. And Onita got to have that as a backdrop to launching FMWE. And, there's still going to be guys out there on the indies doing whatever they can, as far as deathmatch and.
It's funny because I saw and I thought it was a joke at first, but then I saw it on YouTube and it was real. You probably saw it. I think it was probably it was when that Nick Gage Dark Side of the Moon, Dark Side of the Ring episode, which was about 2 months ago, came out, and Moxley showed up at, I guess it had to be GCW, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and he showed up there, and it was almost like they were trying to set up a match. I don't know what happened after that, to be honest. I obviously don't think they had the match. I don't know if people were talking about maybe they're trying to set it up so Nick Gage shows up at AEW. I'm pretty sure that hasn't happened either. So I don't know what that was. Maybe it was a one-time thing. Moxley just felt like going back there for a night. I don't know. It was weird, kind of, right?
10 billion things could have happened between now and then. You know what I mean? I think you know what I'm talking about as far as 10 million things could have happened. This guy could have got into that guy. He could have wanted too much money. He could have.
Yeah, a lot of things could have went to
it. Yeah. His wife just gave birth. I'm very sure he's a very busy guy. I don't know who handles his bookings. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I can't begin to tell you. It harkens back to, at least on a stateside level, when they did the Once in a Lifetime with bringing Onita to CZW. There's 10 million reasons why everything had to go down the way that it did. And, I had people going, why did they choose Ichiro Yaguchi? Why did they choose Hideki Hosaka? And why Panda? And, well, Panda's Onita was, at the time, he was Onita's personal assistant. I mean, he would help him put his boots, his knee pads on, anything Onita needed, he needed from Panda had to be there. So, and as far as the other choices, I mean, there's 10 million reasons. He'd always been a six-man with those guys. So it was Onita's way of, up front being like, this is going to be a six-man. This is going to break down to a six-man no matter what. Masato Tanaka, all the bookings that guy gets, he's a freelancer. All the bookings that guy gets from all these independents, you think he's going to stop wrestling there locally, where he's treated like a god, and there's always people there to pick him up and take him out to eat after and give him gifts, give him money on the side, all kinds of crap, all in Japan, right? You think he's going to stop that to go back to, for Masato Tanaka, it's like, it's just another booking. He never has to leave home, and he makes the kind of money he does locally there in Japan. I mean, even if it was a choice by Onita to bring him with him, I don't think Tanaka probably would have showed him all those bookings. Onita wouldn't even consider going to him and being like, "Hey, you want to cancel all your Japanese bookings to come with me to America?" Anyway, I could go down that entire roster and tell you they lead very busy lives as is. If they wanted to come to America, if they wanted to have a match in America, if they wanted to try to wrestle somewhere in America, really there are no other places to go. I mean, there's no, solid territories left or anything like that, but those guys would have done it. Even Hashimoto, his co-partner, Hasagawa, even that guy, he owns an entertainment business outside of pro wrestling. You always see that guy on yachts, like in Guam, just, in these crazy high-end places. You don't expect a guy like him or Hashimoto to, like, abandon what they're doing, just to go over there and be like, yeah, we're FMW, Super Battle FMW. Even regarding that situation, there are so many reasons why what had to happen and happened the way that it did happen. There's not. I mean, it was out of a lot of people's control, and the same thing goes on with them building Moxley and Gage. Oh, why didn't it happen? There could be a billion reasons why.
It might still happen too. It's not like it was 3 years ago. It was only like about a month ago. So.
If you put that on 6 months from now, people would be like, whoa, because they would just continue to build.
Right. It's
Why not?
Like they've wrestled in the past, so there's a history. They don't really have to do much there. See, I don't know if he was to go to AEW, like I'm talking about Gage. I mean, I think people would know him from that episode, but I mean, there's a lot of people who wouldn't know who he is, let's be honest, unless you like really were following him in GCW or something. I mean, you didn't really follow him in GCW. I know guys who have a guy who has a wrestling site that really, I mean, he knew who he was, but like he never really saw him wrestle or anything like that. So I don't know how fast it would be to put him on TNT or whatever. Gage, I'm talking about.
They'd be wise to strike while the iron's hot, because it's still kind of sort of coming off of the whole dark side of the ring thing with him. So
well, they got to do it soon then. It's already been like 2 months since that episode.
Yes. Yeah, but like he was on Sam Roberts, and all that stuff. The key is to pretty much, I guess you could say, strike while the iron's hot. You don't tease what you can't deliver. That's always been the cardinal rule in wrestling. But there's so much there that we don't know. And, I'm pretty sure if I ask around, I can find out. But,
yeah.
That's one of those slippery slope things, because once you do that, then those same people that you asked that to start feeding you all this stuff about all these people's personal lives, and then they start telling you about what Brett Lauderdale does in his personal life. And it's like, I don't need to know that. It reminds me of the whole thing with that Michael Elgin guy. Why? It's bad enough all the trouble he's already in, but then they start telling stories about there's guys too that he's messing with, and there's guys too that he's having these sexual. Is that like is that supposed to be a parting shot at him? That right. There's guys involved here too. I don't understand. Like why would anybody need to know any of that? Are you trying to do like an anti-smear campaign? Like, guys, you be careful too. Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Right.
Like, whoever this guy is sleeping with, or whatever, sex orientation. Like, I guess maybe that was their attempt at a parting shot at him. I don't know, but I couldn't imagine how that shit ties into anything that guy's up. He's in enough trouble. Why kick him while he's down? I don't get it.
Right. Yeah, that's strange. People do that, though. I wanted to ask you also, what are your thoughts on Terry Funk? Looks like he's old. I mean, Terry Funk has been old since the 90s. I mean, now he's really, like, getting up there in age, and I think he's in, like, assisted living. So, I mean, he's still going good, I think. I know Paul Orndorff died, too, last week.
Yeah.
So losing some of our childhood, wrestlers that we watched. So they're all getting old.
Yeah, but
that's the thing.
Yeah, but like with Terry Funk, it was other people saying, "I talked to him. He's fine." It's all these people. I know that, of course, when Super Battle FMW, the whole idea was get Terry Funk back here. And the more I heard that name, I was just like, oh, man. But then they quickly realized he's just not physically, ailing and health and whatnot. As far as like, here's one. How long has superstar Billy Graham been dying?
Oh, yeah, he's been in bed.
I'm sorry, I hate to put it that way, but I'm sorry. How long has that guy been dying?
Yeah,
he was
he's
like
been
dying
in since like the 90s or whatever.
Yeah, like since the early 90s, that guy's been dying.
So he's fucking himself up with steroids and stuff, and yeah, he's lucky he lived as long as he has, though, right?
I really guess that he has. He's been blessed with all these other years because
he got a lot of years now. Yeah.
Yeah, he got a great run at it, sitting in a wheelchair for 28 years now.
Yeah, then Lyle Alzado.
I almost hate to put it that way, but
I mean, Lyle Alzado died, right? Pretty young from the steroids and stuff.
No, he died from cancer, actually, brain cancer.
Oh, was it cancer? I thought it was because I remember
that was one of the arguments made for steroids was that Lyle Alzado was supposed to die from steroids. Yeah, did not die from steroid complications. He had passed away from that. That was everybody, who's a juice head. Which, I mean, if you've seen the pictures of me here lately, I mean, yeah, I can't lie. I'll dabble. I'm 47 years of age. What bad would a 6-week cycle do to get my ass in the gym and get things going? And world of difference though between using them and I mean, they're as addictive as anything else because you see the immediate results. But if I wanted to give myself a swift kick in the nuts and be like, all right, then after that, let's see when I wean off 6-week cycle. Let's see how I continue to do.
Right.
World of difference. It's to me, it's no different than whenever you see people and they talk about, I mean, the world of difference between one illegal and another. Whenever you see or hear people talk about like hard drugs, I was like, you could dabble at least once and try it like an idiot, but you know what happens if you get hooked? The second time you pick up that pipe, your ass is history.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
I
think a lot of. I mean, I don't know what the percentage would be, but if you looked at wrestlers throughout the years, I mean, it's got to be a high percentage that have dabbled in steroids. I mean, you just don't get some of these bodies just from lifting weights. Not all of them. I mean, look at The Rock. Let's be honest. He almost looks ridiculous. Especially for his age. I mean, he looks like a freaking action.
When you see him,
it's obvious.
Yeah, when you see him that,
I don't care what anybody says. Stallone
and it's
steroids.
funny. The Black Book. The Black Book that got out. Everybody knew all those Hollywood guys that were using them were taking them. God, come on. You're going to tell me with all those big lumps on them? All those big lumps all over those bodies?
Yeah, I mean, Stallone looks like his face looks like he's like 70 and like his body is loaded with muscles. I mean, it looks silly to this point, but
you remember Balboa? He was what, closing on 60 when he did Balboa, and he was just ripped to shreds, but his face, oh
silly.
My God.
Yeah, but his face was like a wrinkled mess. It looks so stupid.
And on top of everything else, it's like, The Rock, yeah. And then
he looks ridiculous. I'm sorry.
It ties in.
Those are like look like you know, they look like they go out like 15, 20 inches each side. It looks so unnatural.
It almost ties and harkens into the whole. We're talking about Cornette. His partner, Brian Last, the one that interviewed me. That was the very first podcast I ever did, 605. I told him, I said, The Rock, when he came through Memphis, was just this giant mass. And then when you saw him go to the WWE, he clearly took something synthetic because he leaned out and he had so much more cut, where he was just this big round ball of muscle when he arrived in Memphis. I'm like, yeah, we knew it back then. But, I mean, the guys that were saucing up, you know, it was just like, well, good for you, man. I mean, we had Spellbinders, Sid Vicious. It's like, come on. You know, to this day, I don't care how many people talk bad about Sid. I love Sid. I love
Sid, too, yeah. I love Sid Vicious. He was one of the funniest guys, you know, on the mic, too. He would mess up once in a while, but he was great.
He, one night, for no reason, we were at a house show up in Kentucky, and I rode with him and Johnny Rotten, the guy that wrestled as his brother in Memphis, who has since passed. But out of nowhere, for no reason, and it was a small, like, spot show, it was like, still, because of Sid, you know, even after the people got used to him being in Memphis, he was still drawing, especially in those smaller towns. But this was a spot show somewhere in Kentucky. And for no reason, he was wrestling Brian Christopher for Brian's title.
Yeah.
He just started acting like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He was like running around the ring and he's like, oh, tough guy. Everybody, I mean, like, you know, I couldn't wait for him to finish because I had to help the local promoter tear down the ring and all that crap. And, you know, then that was my ride pretty much. I was driving them. But yeah, I mean, like, stuff like that. Nobody ever saw that side of him, you know, and
yeah,
to me, not only that, he was always personally like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He just liked his softball and, you know,
yeah,
Memphis.
If you watched him do some shoot interviews on YouTube, you could tell he's a really good guy.
He was one of those guys too. He wasn't your traditional wrestling fan. He just said, hey, I can make some money doing this thing. And, you know, like him, like King Kong Bundy, it showed in their work that they were just there to do their thing. And then that was it. You know, they weren't drawn to it. They weren't huge fans. I mean, I remember King Kong Bundy saying, you know, that he wished that he had that fandom inside of him, but he just didn't. He never did. He wished that deep down inside that he was a huge, huge wrestling fan, but he never was. So, I mean, you know, of course, the ones that are just big time fans for it and love it, you know, they're going to be driven and push themselves, you know, and be the type of wrestler that they always wanted to be and that they always wanted to see and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, with him, it was never like that, not from the get go.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Hey Tony, I saw I saw it recently. I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw clips of it. I skipped around on it because it was long. I saw you did a podcast with your mask on for like 3 hours. That had to be kind of warm, right?
Yeah, that was Murder, Death, Kill gang over there. Mike Vick and the boys. Eric, there. I told him I was doing your podcast anyway tonight. Eric had turned me on to it. You know, he said, hey, if we could just have you come over here. And I just said, you know, to myself, like, you know, I don't have anything to lose. And you know what? Like, I know that these people are going to come up with some cool questions, like stuff that's out there. And, you know, what was funny? Somebody else sent it to me, and they go, I want you to scroll this entire channel. And I swear to God, I'm not saying this out of ego or anything else. This was sent to me. And they go, yours, the interview that they did with you, is the most viewed thing on that entire Deathmatch channel. And I had to look at it and check it out for myself. They've interviewed New Jack. They've interviewed, like, you know, I could sit here and name drop the biggest names in the history of Deathmatch wrestling. And I look up there and I was like, oh my God. You know, like, that's something, you know, they say like, oh yeah, you shouldn't go on that. That does mean a lot to me. That and I don't know if you saw on the Instagram feed, but yeah, it's I had this family from Japan. The little kids sat down, they drew their own Chainsaw Tony stuff, and you know, it's animation from Japan. So I mean, it's unbelievable, the detailing, and you know, then the guy sent me a picture with me and his kids, and he hand wrote out like a letter to me in English, like stuff like that. When you know, I've been through an entire hot day in this miserable, humid weather of catering hot food outside, and you know, being a mobile caterer, and you know, you got to set up people's, you know, lunches, and you got to pour all the water in the pans, you got to light your sternos, you got to get the bracketing, the harness, you know, you got to get your pitcher on the side so you have just enough water for, you know, the pans so nothing burns. And I'm doing that, and I'm, you know, you got plates, napkins, forks, knives, everything you can imagine with catering, and I'm doing that all day long, and then I have to go to the gym after I get off of work. It's stuff like that that will give you a real swift kick upside the ass. Like, dude, people are paying good money. And, you know, when I go overseas and I see that even on the tiniest independent, they're charging $35, $40 a seat, you know, that's enough to more than motivate you. You know, so many little things are there to keep you going. And, you know, you could look back years and years and years ago of, you know, watching wrestling and being like, wow, if I was ever up in the ring, you know what I would do? You know, and then you get to do it. So, yeah, it's, I went into that interview just kind of blindly, and then the weird thing was all the fans were supposed to feed questions, but he had gotten, I think Mike Vick had gotten his Facebook account was like shut down, so we had to do it with only like a couple of the fans' questions live coming in. But he himself just kept it rolling, like, for 3 hours. We sat there and discussed, you know, me, 1989, walking into the Monster Factory, 15 years old, 95 pounds, 5'2", and, you know, just what happened from there. Like, it starts to sprout, you know, and then, you know, all that good stuff. So it's so cool looking back, and then, you know, with fans throwing questions in there, just at random, like, you know, what is it like when you're just running through the crowd, just acting nuts, you know, with a chainsaw? And it's like, it's so cool because now the little tweaks and stuff like that, whenever I watch, like, Mike Hersher, Rick Patterson, who I dearly love, you know, the little tweaks I always wanted whenever I watched them, and I was like, what if he did this here? That's what I get to contribute. That's what I get to try to combine the moveset of the second one with the charisma of the first. And, God, especially being all pent up like this. You know, it reminds me of like almost like the battery in your phone where you're like, my battery's been overcharged for so much. The hell am I going to do at this point? Like,
Right. I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, feel so pent up, but so ready to let loose when the time is right. You know, I know it's cool because I went with the bulk because, you know, I trying to challenge myself to lifting more and more weight. Like every time I go to the gym, but also too, I just know the weight's going to shed right off once I'm back. There's an actual ring in Fukuoka, so physically, you know, I get my in-ring workout. Everything, you know, it's right there by that office in Fukuoka for FMWE. So it's like once you don't have to work a regular job and wrestling is 24/7 for you, my God, I take it almost too seriously over there.
Well, before you go, Tony, I wanted to ask you, have you been watching the Mets at all lately?
Man, I'm starting to. Now's the point in the season where everything starts dipping down. You're like, oh no, like might be in trouble.
Well, they're hanging on to first place, but they're win one, lose one, win one, lose one. Hopefully, they make a couple of trades and get some help in here with all these injuries. That's what they really need to do.
Yeah, we got way too many injuries, and if Jacob deGrom goes down with anything, we are seriously screwed. We have
he's
nobody.
on the injured list now. He's on the injured list now with something. I don't even know what it is, but
yeah, but he's supposed to come back in like another
hopefully like 10 days. But some of these pitchers that they're sending out there, I mean, it's like you never heard of some of these guys. No wonder they're not winning some of these games. Like minor league.
You know how many times they go? Yeah, they go to that bullpen. I'm like, what minor league team did they get this guy from? And then like the guy goes to wind up, and the guy goes to wind up, and you're like, what is this? Make a Wish? Like, why is this guy? I'm like, I've never even heard of this guy. I'm like, who is this?
Yeah,
I'd never even heard. I'd never heard of this guy being signed. Is this like somebody that was in spring training that got cut? That they were like, hey, buddy, we made a mistake. Come back.
Yeah.
It's our defense, man. It's our pitching. Now's the point of the season where I start getting really nervous, but they have got to. They're going to clinch it. They're going to keep it. I know that they are. They're just going to give me a heart attack in the meantime.
Yeah, they're going to fight it off with the Phillies and probably Atlanta the whole way, but hopefully they do win the division and we get to see some playoff baseball. But we'll see. That's a long way off. But all right, Tony, I'm going to wrap this up.
I still have to. I just wanted to point out real quick how bad I still have to get down to Citi Field and just.
Oh yeah.
Even if I'm by myself, I don't care. I'll stop for a burger or something somewhere in the city. Maybe I'll stop by the Limelight and see the old club I used to kick it at. Maybe I'll do something like that. Pay $29 for parking. That's what it was.
Yeah.
9 years ago. So I imagine how much it is now.
Yeah.
But,
I imagine. Yeah. Probably 40.
Yeah, I just had to throw that in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fans are back in there now. It's looking pretty good, but that's definitely something a nice night out for sure. But we'll see. We'll see how it all turns out month by month, halfway through the year right now. But I want to thank you for coming on, Tony. We'll just keep doing this every month until we go back to Japan and then take it from there. So yeah, we'll talk next month. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess from there we have to figure out how we're going to do this once I go overseas, but. Yeah,
there's got to be some way, but
there's got to be somewhere through Facebook or something. I don't know, something along those lines.
Yeah,
but I always thank you for the platform, and always thank you for the opportunity, and I know a lot of people are listening, so like it almost amazed me because I always say to myself, once he gets to triple digits, like, all right, a few people paying attention there. And, like, the last time we did one of these, and, like, within a day or two, I'm like, wow, 100 people jumped on there just to see what. And that was only on my YouTube feed. So I don't know how many people have been downloading and listening to me, but I need to thank them for taking out the time to even listen to me.
I mean, this is all over the place. This is on basically every podcast platform, so. I mean, you add all the numbers up, it's a lot. It's a lot more than just hundreds, it's a couple thousand.
And I truly do feel honored. I really feel very appreciated, very humbled, But, it's always great talking to you, man. Always.
Absolutely. All right, Tony. I'll keep up with you, and we'll talk next month. Thank you.
Sure enough, man. Take very good care of yourself.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you once again.
You've been listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Check us out daily at recklessairwavesradio.com for all the latest Reckless interviews, as well as other Reckless shows, including The Rob and Slim Show, Corrigan's Corner, and Straight to the Point with Percy Crawford.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.